What's this? Big Red's in for a service. Christmas time service. Oh dear. Yep. The 20B has been hurt. Unfortunately, an apex seal had left the chat and it developed a bit of a miss. So this is what I did Boxing Day. Pulled it out and pulled it apart. Now before you say, the tune must have been no good, it was lean, too much timing, whatever. No, this one was completely self-inflicted. Driving home on, it was Christmas Eve. I've been given it a bit of a hiding. Some kid on the side of the road yelled out, "Hey, do a skid," and fuck did I do a skid. Absolutely tore the rear tyres off it. Yeah, she was into the hot and it copped a beating. It survived. It did okay. It wasn't until I actually turned into the driveway at home I thought, this thing's got a bit of a miss, and it was still a little bit hot. Maybe it's a coolant seal or something. But came out a couple of hours later, it started up, and on cranking I could hear that it had like a weak pulse. It fired up, it wasn't smoky, it still drove. I drove it back here to the shop on Boxing Day. But yeah, this one's completely self-inflicted, and yeah, I've only got myself to blame for this one. But in hindsight, now I can put the engine with put the engine back together with some aftermarket apex seals. Put some pro seals in it, and there's no way I'm putting the twins back on there, so it'll get a single. I've got a 75 that's been hanging around the shop for a little while, so I'll fit that up to it and see what it makes. And I guess after I see what that makes, we'll port it and see what porting makes. So I'm not overly upset about it. Yes, the car is for sale, and I've been driving it quite regularly to and from work. Enjoy driving it. It does everything well. I guess now that whoever buys a car will have a fresh engine and a single turbo, and yeah, they can do with it as they please. So we did a comp test on it before I removed it, and it had 120s, low 120s on the rear, 115, 116 on the centre, and the front unfortunately only showed one pulse with 95 and then 2 at 40. So it hadn't completely fallen apart, hadn't completely killed itself, but when the engine was out and I stripped it down, it seems like a small piece of the apex seal has broken off, and very, very luckily only done maybe one cycle through the engine, so it didn't wreck the rotor, it didn't completely destroy a housing, so very, very lucky to get away with the minimal damage that we did yet. But I'll show you that coming up. Like I said, not overly concerned that the engine is out. It'll give me a chance to tidy up some of this mess. There's a few things on the car that I wasn't ultimately happy with. Japanese modifications are Japanese modifications. Sometimes they're good, and a lot of times they're a little bit on the cheap and nasty. So I'll tidy those few things up and put the engine back in, and yeah, it'll give me a chance to play around with the tune and then pull the engine out again. I'll port it and just see exactly how much power you can make from porting the engine. We'll keep it completely stock. The engine is apart already, and it's in very good condition other than a mark in a rotor housing. These are the apex seals out of the front rotor, the ones that caused the issue. Now on one we can see we lost the tip. Now that's the one that I believe failed first and got itself jammed up in the exhaust port, which we also have a cracked one there, but I haven't lost anything off the length of that beam, so I dare say it was that crack was a repercussion of that, and this was the lonely survivor. We did comp test the engine before we removed everything, and surprisingly enough it still had reasonable compression. Like I said earlier, it was really only that there was a miss in the engine that I suspected there was an issue. Okay, so here's the results of the broken apex seal. Now we can have a look on the tip here. You can see it was very, very lucky. So this seal actually broke in half. The other one had broken just a tip off. Now you can see where the assist piece has right there left an indent. Now we were very lucky because it just burred over and actually stopped this seal from coming out. And you can see in the engine where it got caught in the exhaust port. So it has gone one revolution around and left there is a groove in there, and there's nothing we can do about that. That's I have run a flapper disc over it just to make sure that there's no high spots. But we can see just in here in the exhaust port where it got trapped and then went out and ended up lodging itself in the turbine housing. So overall, very lucky. As you'd expect to see from most 20B engines, standard untouched, still in very good condition, and just highly carboned up. That's really all that all that was bad on this. Obviously then breaking an apex seal. So other than a wire wheel to get the carbon off, we've degreased everything, run it through the hot wash, get everything as clean as we can. These will go back in unmodified. This one I just ran the apex seal file through just to make sure it was true, and a seal goes through there without too many dramas at all. It's not catching. Now when I put that seal in with a feeler gauge, it's still within spec, so it's still quite tight, so pretty lucky to get away with minimal damage there. Now these will go back in. Like I said, the engine's unported, and we'll make we'll tune it, we'll make some power on it and see what it makes, and then we'll pull it apart and port it and see exactly what horsepower gains you get from porting alone. Okay, so the rotors are all together. We've got our corner seals in, side seals. We've got all control rings and springs. Now I've reused everything that was originally in the engine. The only thing that's new is the corner seal plugs, and obviously I'll put an aftermarket apex seal purely so that they don't break. Bearings were all fine. They're all good. We've just put lube on them so that they're all good to go. Now we'll assemble this engine. Now there's no porting being done at all, so the plan of attack is we will put the single turbo on this, dyno it, see what it makes, and then we'll strip the engine back down and see exactly how much difference we do get from porting the engine. If you think you know what the difference will be, drop a comment in below. I'm guessing somewhere between 50 and 75 horsepower purely on porting. Now we're only going to do a mild port, street port, extend port, whatever you want to call it. We're not going to cut a bridge. It'll literally just be the original port just enlarged. So my guess is around 50 to 75 horsepower gain just in the porting. Time will tell. got our crank, given it a clean, lap the tapers for the front and rear. All the journals are mint. Engine was in very, very good condition, so it makes very quick work of the whole procedure. Okay, so that's the Cosmo engine all back together. Now that, like I said earlier, no porting, basically stock, which is kind of weird. Haven't put a stock engine back together for quite a while. The only modifications that it will or has received is we deleted the oil metering pump, primarily because the plastic hoses were broken. And I'd much prefer to have a premix fuel setup. EGR got deleted, so we won't be running that anymore. Now I will just go back and have a look at the fuel system that is in the car. We expect that with a single turbo it will make substantially more power. I think we made it was under 350. So yeah, we'll just have a quick look at that, make sure we've got enough injector and enough pump, and we'll put it back on the dyno and see what it makes. Obviously on pump fuel we'll be limited to how much boost we can put into it, but once that's done I guess we'll pull the motor back out and we'll port it, just do an extend port and just see what the actual difference that porting will make as far as power. Yeah, like I said, leave a comment, let us know how much power porting is going to gain.